Or is City TV ready? All right, all good? All right, calling to order Historic Landmarks Commission, April 27th, 2022. All right, so first order of business, roll call.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and take the roll call. So we have Chair Grumbine,
Here.
Vice Chair House,
I'm here.
Commissioner Butler,
Here.
Commissioner Dorden,
Here.
Commissioner Drury,
Here.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Here.
Commissioner Manuel is absent, and Commissioner Uli is absent. We have a quorum. Thank you.
All right. Okay, on to item A, public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for public discussion. Is there any member of the public here? All right, so now that was your chance. All right, we're closing public comment. On to item B, approval of the minutes of Historic Landmarks Commission meeting April 13th, 2022. All right, thank you, Commissioner Drury.
Second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Butler. Second, under discussion, any edits? Changes? We good? Okay, sounding like we're good. All right, so with that, let's have a motion. And do we have to do roll call motions or we just do regular motions for this? Okay, we want to stay with that. Okay. All right. Can we have a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. So I'll start with Commissioner Dorden,
Abstain.
Commissioner Drury,
Abstain.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, we are on to approval of the consent calendar for April 27th, 2022. Does staff have a summary?
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine. Scroll to item A, was for 714 Chiquita Road. The decision was for project design approval and final approval with project compatibility findings and minor alterations for resources on the historic resource inventory findings met. And item B was for 903 Arbolado Road. The action was to continue indefinitely with the comment that the proposal is acceptable and that the commission will be able to make the findings when the project returns for project design approval. And the reviewer was Vice Chair House.
All right. Thank you. Could we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
All right, Commissioner Drury, second by Vice Chair House. Under discussion, any discussion, notes, anything?
Nope.
All right. In that case, roll call vote, please.
Thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Drury,
I abstain.
Commissioner Butler,
No, wait a minute, I don't
You don't
abstain.
need
No, I already abstained for the other one.
You can vote
Yes.
yes on this one.
Yes, I can vote. No.
And you weren't even there.
I
This is
wasn't.
one of those ones.
All right, so Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, thank you. We are rolling on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. So, announcements.
Yeah, I have a couple, Chair Grumbine, thank you.
One question?
Can't hear me?
Yeah,
Is this
there we go.
working?
It's working.
Okay, all right. The first announcement is that as of May 1st, any meeting that was televised prior to the pandemic will include an option for remote public comment via Zoom. And then my second announcement is that item 2 of today's agenda for 524 Chapala Street has been postponed to May 11th at the applicant's request.
Sorry, can you say that first one or maybe explain it a little bit more?
Sure. There will now be a remote public comment option for any meeting that was televised prior to the pandemic. So consent meetings would not be included in this,
Oh,
but full
gotcha.
board and full commission meetings, as of May 1st, will have a
Okay,
remote
and then
public.
how is that going to work?
I believe it's going to be through Zoom. I don't exactly know
And
how.
like
we're
via a
going-
screen or?
I'm not quite sure. We're going to have a run-through
Okay.
coming up soon, and
Okay, we'll know that, won't
We
know more
want
then.
answers. We want answers.
No, I'm just curious as to what that format's going to be like. Okay, great, thank you. All right. Any other announcements? From
No
staff?
further
Okay.
announcements from staff.
Okay. From anyone on the board? Everyone good? Okay. Let's see. And then in that case, we'll close item D and on to item E, subcommittee reports. So any of the subcommittees or others want to report on?
I can
Commissioner
report
Lembeck?
on a State Street Advisory Committee meeting that was held on the 18th. And we had a presentation by staff on the status of the proposals that had been submitted. I forget the exact count of the number of proposals, but 8 have been vetted for consideration and are being currently reviewed by staff. We also had a presentation by the Santa Barbara Chapter AIA on the charrettes that they had done for State Street last year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all, and we continue to meet once a month.
Great. All right, thank you. Commissioner Lenvick, other commissioners and other subcommittees, anyone meet or have anything? You know the Plaza de la Guerra one did.
Yeah, I don't have to really tell you
But you don't-
anything about that.
But we were there for it, so.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's not anything else, then I will close item E and on to item 1, which I think, yeah, we're within time. So this is a miscellaneous action item, or if the applicant is here. Or I guess it's just, yeah, it's just Nicole, not just Nicole, it's Ms. Hernandez. Okay, yeah, sorry, I was thinking it might be someone in the audience. All right, so this is a miscellaneous action item for certified local government. And this is review and approve the certified local government 2020-2021 annual report as required by the California Office of Historic Preservation. All right, Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I do have to pull up a lot of facts about what we did in the past year, and it does go, from October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021. And just as an overview of what we did that period, we did 26 historic designations. All the commissioners completed their required at least one training. We updated the historic surveys for the Bungalow Haven proposed historic district and the West Beach Historic District, and we continue to update our webpage and provide educational opportunities, including the social media Instagram account featuring historic sites. You HLC members reviewed 44 projects on historic buildings, and we had 9 Mills Act projects added to our the program, so now we have 61 Mills Act projects, and we added 7 properties to the historic resources inventory. So it seemed like a really busy year when you put it all together.
You got a lot done.
Should
All
be
right.
proud.
Yeah. Nice work. All right.
You
Okay.
all just need to approve that, and then I can send it off to the state for their records.
Gotcha. So this is in need of a motion for approval of that.
Yes.
Okay. And then so let's go to public comment first. And I think if you're done with their presentation, okay. All right. So let's go to public comment for this item. Any member of the public may comment on this item. You'll need to fill out a speaker slip if you so choose, but I'm not seeing a lot of great activity. All right. So if there's no public wanting to comment on this, we'll close public comment and back to the commission.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Vice Chair House, second by Commissioner Drury. Under discussion, any discussion?
Great job.
All right, yeah.
You got a lot done. We just show up here every other Wednesday.
Well, now we show up. Before we just
Yeah.
sat around in our offices. All right, so if there's no other discussion, let's have a roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Butler,
Yes?
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes?
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, thank you all. So we are now officially, well, we're still actually 10 minutes behind, so we can, in theory, keep going with the next item. So item 2 was 524 Chapala Street. That was postponed. This was for final approval. So yeah, that was postponed, let's see, to May 11th, 2022, at the applicant's request. Final approval is requested. Project plans must demonstrate substantial conformance to the plans that received project design approval on April 13th, 2022. The project was last reviewed April 13th, 2022. So that has been postponed. Okay. Oh, so actually, then for closing that item, on to item 3, can we not start, because it's, we're
15 minutes.
13.
We can start 15 minutes
Oh,
before
okay.
hand, so I think we're okay.
If the applicant's here.
We have an applicant.
So this would be for 481 West Mountain Drive.
Yeah, we also have a project planner. Maybe we should take a 5-minute
Okay.
recess and just make sure we have
Yeah,
everyone
that
in
sounds good.
attendance. that-
Yeah, we're pretty exhausted, so
Okay, thank you.
I think I might need to get a coffee.
Hey, this is harder.
Yeah, we're zipping through everything so fast, we have to take recesses. So we're on to your guys' item. Okay, calling back to order Historic Landmarks Commission, April 27th, 2022. All right, let's go on to item 3. This is 481 West Mountain Drive. This is a continued item for project design approval. This is a series of 7 existing cottages constructed in 1947 are listed on the Historic Resources Inventory. For reference, the Historic Structure Sites Report accepted by HLC on August 4th, 2021 is available at this link. The single residential zone site is developed with 7 dwelling units, 469 through 493 West Mountain Drive, and various accessory structures on one 4.59 acre lot, and is non-conforming to residential density. The project seeks approval of as-built and proposed new residential remodels, additions, and as-built and proposed new accessory buildings. The project received an approval from the staff hearing officer for a lot area modification and a setback modification. Project design approval is requested. Project compatibility findings and major alterations to resources on the Historic Resources Inventory findings are required. The project was last reviewed September 1st, 2021. And do we have the minutes? Perfect, thank you. So the motion was to continue indefinitely to the staff hearing officer and return to full commission with the following comments. 1, the commission is supportive of the setback modification and lot area modification. Sorry. 2, the architectural changes to the accessory structures are acceptable in conceptual form. 3, the commission makes the following general comments regarding the project compatibility findings. A, project design is consistent with the design guidelines applicable to its location. B, the design of the project is compatible with desirable architectural qualities and characteristics that are distinctive of Santa Barbara and of the particular neighborhood surrounding the project. C, the size, mass, bulk, height, and scale of the project are appropriate for its location and neighborhood. D, there is no adjacent landmark or other nearby designated historic resources. E, the scenic public vistas are not affected. F, the project includes an appropriate amount of open space and landscaping. And the motion was by Lenvik, second was by Uli, 7, and the vote was 7-1-0. Edmonds abstained, Drury was absent, the motion carried. All right. So with that, if you could introduce yourself live for the record.
Yes, my name is Joe Androlitis with Androlitis
Press that.
I was already on.
Vixen Architects.
Sorry.
And this is really just a formality. I mean, you guys already reviewed the project and basically approved it, but I couldn't get formal approval, project design approval, because I hadn't been to the staff hearing officer. But there have been some subsequent work done
Yeah.
regarding stormwater. We did narrow down our stormwater concept, and I revised the plans to show the location of all the cisterns. It was a difficult process because I don't know if you recall, most of the roofs are shed roofs, so none of them connect. So there's no way to have the water drain to one cistern. So there's multiple cisterns for each project. We looked at undergrounding everything, but that was cost prohibitive. There is one house where they offered to underground their cisterns. But so I'm just going to go through that scope just to familiarize yourself with what we had to do, and we'll go from there.
Quick question. By cisterns, do you mean rain barrels?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I included it with my submittal, but it's going to be hard to see digitally. I only have one
paper.
copy, but these are all
Okay,
the cisterns
we'll pass
that
it around.
we're proposing. The goal was to locate most of them on the sides and the back. And this is easier for me for now just to do it in the site plan, and each floor plan shows cistern locations in more detail. But this one I could do probably quicker. So they're just the round little circles are the cistern locations. So for 4-6 Mountain Drive, we won't have one in the back corner here. And then these 2 in front of the parking garage are going to be underground.
Mm.
And that's it for that particular unit. For 473, we have one in the corner back here. We have one in the southeastern corner, and then one in the front. As you know, most of these units have a shed roof in the front. So I'm going to show you how we're hiding that cistern in the front, because I'm sure that's a concern of your guys. 477, we have one on the east side and then on the front here. 481, small one in the back, in the front towards this little shed roof, in the back corner of the 481 office, and another one. This is a similar routine you're going to see in the front where we're tucking in a cistern underneath the porch roof to take in the water coming from the front. And then another one in the back here for this back roof. 485, one on the northwest corner. This one's on the porch. And then this one's in the back, this little smaller one. Same kind of pattern you're seeing here. One in the front porch, one in the northwest corner. This one requires 2 cisterns in the back. And then the last one, another one on the porch, on the southeast corner, northwest corner, and then one in the back here, and then one for the office. So I'll go into the individuals now. This one doesn't have one in the front in the porch because we're undergrounding it. But in this case, if we zoom in, you can see I have a 250-gallon cistern in the northwest corner there. Elevations have not changed since you last reviewed them. This is the next unit. We have one in the northwest corner, one here in front of a partial height wall, which I can show you in the photos, I think. And then this one's under the front porch. This one was the most difficult one to kind of get to work because this one has a large cistern requirement. So this is a 500-gallon cistern, and then it's going to be located just outside the porch in the front. And I'll show you the elevation on that one. This is the existing elevation, and then here's the proposed elevation. So the idea is just to wall these in with wood siding on the corners, painted to match the color of the woodwork on the units. In this case, this was not tucked underneath the porch, but as you can see, I have one long shed roof along this whole front elevation that can only drain to this point. So there aren't too many options on this particular unit, unfortunately. Next one, we have one in the front here, just in front of the porch. I'll show you the elevation on that. So that's shown right here, note 8. And the note is it's just horizontal wood siding. Go to note 8. Horizontal wood screen panel. This is the side view of that particular screen for that cistern. Next unit, this one's tucked underneath the porch. You can see that in this elevation here. And we do have another one that's in the front here that we could not avoid. This one's shielded by landscaping, so we're not screening that one. Next one, tucked in again. Same detailing underneath the porch. There we go. Another one tucked, same detailing there as well. Looks like those are out of order for some reason. 2706. Okay. And that covers all the cistern locations and the screening. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know.
All right, thank you. Okay, so since that concludes your presentation, we'll now open up to public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item, you're going to need to fill out a speaker slip, but let us know right now, and you can come up and talk for 2 minutes, speak for 2 minutes. Anyone from the public? Okay, not seeing anyone, so let's close public comment. Back to the commission for questions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair House.
I believe you said the screens are painted.
Yes,
Are they painted or stained?
it's a solid body stain.
Okay. And will you incorporate landscaping like vines on them to help shield them even more?
We can.
Okay, other questions? Right.
Yes.
Commissioner
So
Rodriguez?
these storage tanks are all screened with wood fence,
No, just the ones in the front,
just the ones in the front.
in the front porch. The ones on the sides, which aren't visible, we're leaving as,
The 500-gallon tank is 4 foot in diameter, so that fencing then is 5 by 5 probably.
correct.
Is that what I really see indicated on the front of these buildings?
Oh, that's the one case, that's on for, I think, 73. That's
And
the
can you
only
go to that
case where
one?
we have such a significant amount of roof area. Yeah, well,
Uh-oh.
If we only had
Mr.
paper
Drury,
plans.
Did you do that? I'll be the one to do it if
I'll
it's
go to,
done.
actually, let me just go to that plan.
You don't even have a screen here. Well, I guess you're looking there.
You guys gotta get a faster computer.
Oh, you're not
We-
looking at these monitors.
Yeah. These ones are going crazy.
Ms.
Redraws
Burkhart,
these.
I don't know if you've seen this, but it's better right now, but before.
Yeah, I was doing
they were going like this. Yeah.
So this is the only one that has the bigger tank. And if I zoom out again, I'll show you the front elevation. You can see my dilemma. That's the existing. This is proposed. You can see this entire roof, almost the length of the house, sheds to the front. And then towards the left is the living area, and then I have the front door, and then I have a bedroom / office. So, and then you can see the eave drops towards the left. So the lowest point is towards the left.
And so, to sort of follow up that, so then you're going to have a downspout kickback, or how is the?
Well, there'll be a downspout that goes into the top of the.
And can you go to plan real fast on this one in particular? So then show how the downspout works in that front porch. Yeah. So it goes. How is that getting to the top?
I'm just gonna have to turn back into the. I mean, I haven't
Okay.
completely detailed it yet. So
So, it's a big element sitting in the front of a house which we kind of accept as being traditional, and it just it's a big element in front of that house.
Question mark?
Pardon me?
Is that okay?
Well, it's a big element, and I don't know that it's that the problem has been aesthetically solved. I certainly see it's, the mechanics of it make sense. I don't know. I'm not excited about that particular solution.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? Has Post Hazeltine evaluated this yet? I haven't seen a change to their structures report evaluating these.
no, they have not.
Okay.
Yeah,
We probably will need them to do an addendum
I just
unless the commission
and you say
does it.
that's the only one with 500 gallons that's in front.
Correct.
The rest of them are, what, 350 gallons? I mean, they're still not small units.
I'd have to.
And they're sitting and almost all of them are in front of the house. Like right there, for instance, right there.
Yeah, this one's 400 gallons.
Yeah, okay. So what does that elevation look like?
That's it on the left there. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And that house has a plaster exterior.
Correct.
All of them do.
All of them have a plaster kind of slump stone exterior.
Mr. Chair,
I
just so
mean,
you-
I got to service them, so.
Well, yeah, I
these will
understand
just be
that. I-
removable
but
panel
let's
type.
we'll keep it to questions for right now, and then we'll get yeah.
just for the commission's consideration, if you feel you need the addendum to the structures report prior to
Yeah, I,
making a decision, that's perfectly in your,
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't.
No, that makes sense. Let's
Mr. Chair,
yeah,
so
Commissioner
I'm
Lemon.
still, while I may be hesitant here, that's because I have not been able to observe this before in my, so all of this is irrigation water that runs out the bottom to,
It'll be used for irrigation.
yeah, for
correct.
irrigation. And you don't have enough height where these houses are to locate these 20 feet away in the ground and still get water out?
That's obviously an option. That's an expensive option because you're undergrounding all the downspouts around all the houses. Then you're connecting them underground to one spot, and then you're undergrounding, or you don't have to underground the cistern possibly, but you'd have to still
Well,
shield it, and then you have to pump the water out.
my question was, are you never high enough on this property that the outflow, if it was 20 feet away and buried, would still be of sufficient elevation that you could irrigate some of the plants not immediately adjacent to the house? I mean, that's my
You're
question.
saying gravity feed.
Gravity feed, yeah.
Okay.
Now,
And that's my concern.
So
if
if
I
you can go to
underground,
the-
I got to pump it.
Is
If
it
it's
I have
above
a
ground-
similar question. Could you go to the site plan so we can see the topography at the same time as we're having this conversation? And so, and while you're going there, so does a cistern have to change when it goes underground? Is the first question to a different
Yes,
type?
it's different
and-
plastic, and it's more expensive.
Okay, that's what it's assuming. Okay, so how big are these topo lines that we're looking at?
I think those are good question.
There's a number up in there left hand.
Yeah.
They look like they'd be one.
I think they're
They
1
do
foot
look like it
contours.
too, but
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so, so basically let me understand what you're saying. It's basically it'd be great to be able to point. Yeah, actually, can I steal a mouse for a second? Or is there?
Mr. Chair, please feel free to take the mouse. The mouse cord is long enough that you can use it to point.
Okay, so I just want to try to play out the scenario we're talking about here. So for some of these, it looks like, for example, the 469, that you're going through 1, 2, so this is like a 2 to 3 foot drop by the time you get here, right? And then you're crossing a road after that. And some of these other ones, it looks like you've got a couple more, you've got, maybe 6, 7 feet. So is there, I guess the question is has this been looked at as a potential for what houses, like especially like this one, for example, because it has the biggest one up front, and especially the ones up front is what I'm gonna assume is going to be the biggest question, like this 400 gallon here at 477 and then at 481. Have these been looked at individually to see if something that could be, piped to here, for example, and then use gravity to feed other stuff after that?
Mr. Chair, can I finish my questions here?
Sure.
And then I'll turn it over to somebody else. This is irrigation water now, not recharging the groundwater basin. I mean, who is demanding this to be done?
Creeks.
So are they saying it's okay to use
I
it for
can do whatever I want with the water. It doesn't matter.
Well, no, but I'm saying
I have to.
a lot of
I have to
time
contain the water on site.
you got to retain the water on
The site
site.
doesn't perk.
The ground doesn't perk?
Nope. That's our problem. So if it perked, I could just put it in a big retention basin and let it drain naturally. It doesn't perk, so I have to store it. So I have to store, for that 1-inch rain event, I gotta store all the water.
And then
They
you have
just
to
let
be
it
able
out
to
later,
use it.
or they can use it for irrigation. They can take a shower with it. I mean, whatever they want with it. That doesn't really
So-
matter.
So the ground does not perk. Okay, I finished my question. I'm gonna
Okay.
think
yeah.
about this now.
Okay,
And
so
see
I'll
what
go-
comes out at the bottom.
I'll
my
just
thought
the
process.
question that I had, which was, have you looked at
I
as a potential different solutions for those that
Yes.
have a
I
site?
presented the owners 3 different solutions. And this was the one that they chose. This is the most affordable option to them. The other options were much more costly because they required either pumping, undergrounding of the cisterns, or both, and all the underground work to tie in all the downspouts.
Okay. All right. Other questions? All right.
I think Commissioner Lenvick asked the questions I would have asked, so.
As a civil engineer looked at it for all their potentials as well?
Yeah, Flowers and Associates has been
I do-
hired to do all the stormwater for this project.
Mr. Chair, do you think that because of the addition of the cisterns, we should probably have the post-Hazeltine complete their analysis before PDA, and you all can give your concerns and any compatibility analysis to them? But
Yeah,
since they're in front of the historic resources, it's a little bit
yeah, and
bigger than what was seen last time and at the staff hearing officer.
yeah.
It wasn't
I'm
agendized.
assuming that that's where it's going to probably have to go, but I think that part of this discussion is going to be based on both our concerns with it aesthetically, and then also Post Hazeltine will have to eventually weigh in for sure, because their report will have to indicate one way or the other.
Correct.
Staff?
Yeah.
Who does Post Hazeltine work for in this instance? Does it work for the city?
No, they work. for
They're
us.
hired by the applicant, but they completed the report. So when the project changes, they need to make sure their report
Updates.
updates
And
it.
then
So we have
to review that update. So in the end, no matter what, it'll have to come loop back through via a report to us that we have to discuss and accept or not accept.
So in other words, Post Hazeltine could say, well, this isn't a big deal, yada, 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 and we've got to accept that or reject that.
That's right. And then we have the option of disagreeing with them, in which case it triggers CEQA. Or we also have the option of accepting their report, but then still requiring a different solution. Because all their report is finding is whether the Secretary of Interior standards has been so seriously not met that it triggers a larger thing. And we could disagree on that, or we can also agree with that, but then say we still don't want it. We still don't like the aesthetics of this solution. So, but their report has to take into consideration the aesthetics of the solution and weigh in on whether it negatively impacts the historic resource to a sizable amount.
One last question of the applicant. So you say the ground is not permeable. Is it not permeable for 2 feet, for 10 feet, for 50 feet? I mean, are you not able to get any water into the ground,
We
period?
had the soils test done by Ron Pike, and it doesn't perk enough to meet the stormwater requirements. So I couldn't tell you exactly the depth. I'd have to dig up the report.
You're
But I-
saying without doing something like a dry
Well, they did,
well?
they did, I mean, they did
Yeah.
borings
Yeah.
of the soil.
I mean, this is to me, this is, close to a drainage, whatever. It's in an alluvial plain, whatever. And at some point, the water's got to get into the ground.
Believe me, I am all behind you on that one. Believe me, I think this is all extraordinarily,
And so they weren't okay with just
Unnecessary.
kicking out gutters out to the rest of the site and letting
no,
it-
I mean, I think, they've never had problems of water collecting on site after a storm or flooding whatsoever. So, I mean, if it was up to me, it all sheet flow over the natural topography and we'd be done. But
as it currently does.
I have to abide by stormwater, and unfortunately, this is where we're at.
Well, can we argue some historic clouds that can that can not mess up the buildings. Okay, so.
Mr. Chair, I
Yeah.
I understand, the problems, and I understand economics, and I can appreciate their concern. But there's got to be an aesthetic solution as well. I read the real estate information in the paper, and the house on the far east end is on the market for $2.29 million. So are we able to get a decent drainage system that would fit in with the return on investment of the sale of that house on the far end of the property? That's the question. And I understand that end lot may not, or property may not sell for that, and it doesn't mean the rest of the properties are worth that, but there is certainly some equity in the property that we should be able to realize an aesthetic solution to this problem.
Okay, but that seemed like a comment.
Why don't we just
That was a
transition
question.
into
Yeah.
comments?
So before we do that, we need to go to public comment. And so, or actually, no, we went to public comment.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we did.
Okay, so let's finish off if we have any more questions before we go into comments, and then I think we need to have a discussion. All right.
Mr. Chair, were there
Mr.
any
Butler.
other changes? You mentioned the cistern and what you brought today. Was there anything else that's been done since the last review, or? is
No,
this it?
the remainder of the project remains as is. I would request that on your comments, if I could get some feedback as whether an above-ground solution is acceptable at all in front of the house, and it's just dependent on the type of screening I propose. That would be helpful.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Sounds good. All right. So if there's any other questions, if we go into comments and maybe start with a little general discussion and then go into individual comments. What's that? Oh. No. So to start off our sort of general comments or discussion, in my mind, it does seem there's some of them conditions are very similar, other conditions are different. So all of them seem to, except for the underground one, and actually now that I can actually look where everything is. So the one on the left is the 469 has only the underground cisterns out front. Maybe let's start with the back. Is anyone concerned about the exposed ones in the back? Is everyone okay with those solutions, generally speaking?
I'd be interested in hearing or seeing what the post-Hazeltine say about the entirety of the residential units, front, back, and sides.
Okay, I agree, and I think that one way or the other we'll get there, for sure. Okay, so assuming if we assume that the post Hazeltine, for now let's just right. We haven't heard the arguments from post Hazeltine either way, but I think there's already at least some opinions about some of these, and we have our own opinions about it even with post Hazeltine's reports. So. We'll definitely have to cross that bridge as well when we come to it for the back ones, or for all of them, actually. So, okay, so then we have, for the front ones, those there's different screening methods, right? Some of you said you have landscape for versus the fenced versions. Which front ones do you have landscape screening options for?
I think it's the only one is on 481.
Okay.
The
all right,
circle one.
This one, the circle one right here? Okay,
It's small.
okay. And I'm assuming that's because it's out into landscape as opposed to the other ones which are right by the house?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so then now it brings us to the house ones, which have the fence thing. Let's just open up for a discussion of what thoughts are on having a fence structure as the screening out front.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think at this juncture, just general comments about the proposal are sufficient, because I think we're all in agreement that the report needs to get updated, and we need to take that into consideration in evaluating the whole proposal instead of getting into unit by unit and screened or unscreened or et cetera, et cetera. It's a very frustrating and vexing problem, and I definitely feel for your clients because it seems like it's solving a problem that isn't all that big a problem necessarily. And the SWIMP thing is, really challenging because there's no element of reasonableness. And it would be nice if, okay, the whole place doesn't perk, maybe an exception could be made, or, there's some accommodation in some way. But these things are on a scale of SCE transformers, placed in front of historic structures, and we have a big problem with them. And, I think some alternative solution has to be found. You came here to find out if we could accept the most economical solution. I don't think we can. So you'll need to work on it and see what other solutions you can come up with, and some of it's going to include undergrounding them. And as suggested, if you could gravity flow quite a ways away from the building, then you'll have fewer and larger cisterns and fewer pumps and stuff. So I think that's the way it has to be approached.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yeah, I look at these things, I think, as being certainly driven by creeks, but it's also being driven by the drought. And the fact that there be water on site from rainstorms is salutary. I think certainly my visual objection is the way they're enclosed, and I think they could be enclosed with the same kind of wall that they are against. I mean, it seems to me that just wrapping the wall continuously around with an access behind would be much more preferable than having that slatted look against all that adobe and stucco. In my comments.
Commissioner Lambic?
Yeah, I also sympathize with the applicant and the owners. They're not adding 1 square foot of roofing to this project. It's there. It's there. And yet, to get a permit to change a window out or whatever, they have to deal with creeks. And creeks is unbending and unreasonable and irrational. And I feel sorry for them. In my past life, I encountered creeks, and I read the law one way and they read the law another way. And, they get their way. And it's really unfortunate, but it puts a burden on us who have to approve a project which is they're historic structure, they're not landmarks.
They're on the inventory.
Yeah, they're only on the inventory?
Yeah. I think so. I think that's where they're standing.
They weren't made structures of merit.
Not yet, no.
I thought they were too.
They may have been qualified for, but
No, you accepted the conditions of the report and wanted them added to the inventory,
yeah.
but did not designate them yet. I think you wanted to see how the plans to, complete the
all their work
alterations.
ended up being-
Well,
Yeah.
well,
I mean, we're still abiding by the same general rules. So whether they're
right,
on-
for CEQA purposes, it's the same exact treatment. They all have to meet the Secretary of Interior standards.
Yeah. And generally speaking, we're still applying the same rules.
Maybe you ought to have the Secretary of the Interior contact creeks and talk to them.
So, okay, Commissioner Lenvik, do you have any more? All right, other general comments or discussion? So one thing for sure in my mind, I mean, I think if it did end up being fencing, and I'm more in line with the plaster idea for sure. I'm more in line with not seeing them, obviously. But any sort of fencing solution, if there is any for any one in particular, I would say first of all, obviously it has to be vertical instead of horizontal, and it would probably make sense as a paneled thing, a simple panel, as opposed to the way it is. If you might allow for some horizontal for other, but a simple frame panel. Just in general for any wood going on these projects. That I'm still not saying that I'm convinced that this is the solution for any of them, but just as a note for when it comes to the wood fencing or wood paneling. And then I would say that the screening side of things is going to have to go through post-Hazeltine, but then it's still going to come back, and we're still going to have the same conversation. So I think that even with post-Hazeltine's additional notes and weigh-in, but I think it's still going to be a challenge. So and especially for the front ones, I think that the back ones I would be totally fine with having them as is. But other comments?
Mr. Chair?
Thoughts? Yeah.
I'm in general agreement. I think the one objection is the fencing use of fencing to obscure the tanks. I think if there was some way to match the plaster and approach and keep this is a design approval, right? So I think it breaks with the design of the houses. That's a very minimal requirement here, is that using fencing would really break with the design at general. And if we can find a way to maybe mix those that are above ground, underground, et cetera, so there's fewer above ground would be better.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I'll just reiterate that I think that an attractive solution can be found in this surrounding lot. This is exactly the guy.
We believe in you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Uli.
it is a vexing problem, and I certainly feel for the applicant and the owners of the property. It's unfortunate that for decades and thousands of years, the water's been falling on the ground and going into the creek, and nonetheless has come to it. My own mind is, we should consider making it as an easy a process as we can for the owners who are having to put this saddle on their back and carry the load. So in my mind, if the tanks were just simply painted the color of the building and landscaping were put in front of them to shield them with no fencing and no walls and no extra doodads and glue-ons, it would be a very simple, straightforward solution. None of us are going to be driving up and down this street on a daily basis to see these tanks. The tank is going to be seen by the owner of the property and their visitors. And it should be just as simple a solution and as clean as possible, and as inexpensive as possible.
Mr. Chair, I should
Yes.
state that I would have a hard time supporting that. It's like putting generators in front, or any other piece of equipment in front of these things. It's hard to find a rationale for that. Besides which, these are plastic, and depending upon what kind of plastic they're made of, they may not accept a paint finish that's going to last more than a year.
Okay, so I'm hearing disagreement already on that idea, those solutions. In
I'm often on the end of on the opposite
That's why
side
you're
of
on
the
the end
scale.
of the table. Yeah, no.
well, and I think to your point of the landscape, it
Yeah.
seems like we regularly do approve landscape solutions for, if there are good landscape solutions for screening out things, if you can get it to work. Because obviously it's got to be at the lowest point, it's got to slope, it's got to all work out. And the irony is you've got to use more water to water something to hide the water. But all that being said, a landscape solution is oftentimes in front of mechanical equipment of one sort or another a good solution if it's a good landscape thing. So that could be a possibility as well. It sounds like it might be a path to go down.
The only other thing I can think of, since it rains so often here, is that it be an inflatable bladder of some kind that just sits in the yard and fills up and then goes away when it's done. It's just such a crazy position to be in. If we were the tropics, yeah, I'd say, okay, let's put them up. But it doesn't rain here.
Well, if it was shaped like Santa Claus, and if it was during
There you
Christmas
go.
times, it would inflate and come down. It'd come down just in time for New Year's.
Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah, I looked at the bladders, it's just, the capacity isn't there on what we're expecting or demanding to keep on site.
All right, so if I'll summarize our comments as best I can for now. So I think overall, the HL Historic Landmarks Commission is still very much in favor of the project and understands the difficulties that is being required of the applicants for the stormwater management, and is hopeful for a solution that can both aesthetically be appropriate and still solve the requirements they're being forced to do. So some of the comments from various commissioners were that most preferable is a solution that's least visible, as in undergrounding. If it is above ground in the front especially, the commission was wanting it to be screened, and I didn't hear anyone really supporting a wood fencing screening, but either by landscape, and landscape potentially being even preferable. There seemed to be a decent support for that. And then, and plaster as the only potentially acceptable solution for, instead of wood fencing, for those enclosures that do need to be enclosed above ground. Also, the Historic Landmarks Commission will need to see the historian's report and want to see that, the evaluation of the eventual solution with that as well. And think that's going to be an appropriate next step, is to be reviewing those thoughts, because we know that that'll end up coming back before us. Anyways, so with that, any questions from your side of things?
Yeah, I think you've given me enough feedback that
Yeah.
I can take it from here.
Indefinite continuance?
Yes,
Yep.
please.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make a motion for an indefinite continuance of those comments.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair House. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Commissioner Duray, second. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Abstain?
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
I mean, Mr. Androlitis, we have to be formal.
Yes, we're back in formal.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're right on time. All right. This is for item 4. This is a new item for concept review. It's 328 West Montecito Street. This project site is located within the El Pueblo Viejo Landmark District, Part 1, and is adjacent to the Sayan Library at 316 Castillo Street, which is in the city's historic resources inventory. Proposal for new 9-room hotel on a vacant lot consisting of 2,635 square foot building with 4 hotel rooms, a 3,940 square foot building with 5 hotel rooms, 9 parking spaces in 3,559 square foot parking garage, and 472 square foot of storage and mechanical room space. The project includes a site wall around the development, a trash room, a bicycle storage, outdoor seating area, landscaping, and slight relocation of the existing access on West Montecito Street. The project is proposed as an annex to the approved hotel at 302 and 308 West Montecito Street. No final appealable action will take place at this meeting. Project compatibility findings will be required for project design approval. All right, so welcome. If you could say your name for the record and introduce yourself, and then walk us through.
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Mr. Chair.
sorry, and staff, if staff
Sorry,
has.
is it all right if I jump in with some staff comments?
Yeah, let me ask
Sure,
a
absolutely.
question first of staff,
Yeah.
possibly you.
Commissioner.
Wasn't this project before us several years ago?
I was gonna
Thank you.
run through the background a little bit. Thank
All
you.
right.
I'm Tony Bauman, the planner, project planner, or planner assigned to this project. And this site has been vacant since 1999, when a former gas station was demolished. And HLC has seen a couple of proposals for the site. In 2014, a gas station mini market had a concept review here, but the gas station proved to be infeasible because circulation into and out of the site could impede the busy intersection. They weren't allowed to have any driveways going from the site onto Castillo Street, so that didn't work for a gas station. In 2020, the HLC reviewed a proposal for a 9-room hotel at a one-time concept review with conceptual drawings. And the 9-room hotel project has been further developed, and it's here for its first concept review under a formal application submittal. The project requests Planning Commission approval of a development plan for new non-residential floor area and a transfer of existing development rights permit to transfer floor area and hotel room development rights to this site. HLC approval is required because the project proposes new non-residential buildings and it's in El Pueblo Viejo. Land development team staff, including myself, have completed 2 rounds of application completeness review. The application is still deemed incomplete, although it's getting close to being deemed complete. And one item required for application completeness is to come to the HLC for concept review and comments on the project compatibility criteria, and a continuance to the Planning Commission. Today, the HLC should conduct concept review and provide comments on the project compatibility findings and also consistency with El Pueblo Viejo design guidelines. The commission and public comments should pertain only to the aesthetics of the proposal and refrain from commentary on occupancy, parking, traffic, those sorts of things. The project will go to the Planning Commission at a noticed hearing where land use issues like that will be considered when they review the development plan. Following Planning Commission approval, the project would return to the HLC at a noticed hearing for HLC approval. And a note that interested parties can contact staff about receiving notices and hearing agendas, as it says on the first page of the HLC agenda. And I'm here for questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. House.
So I seem to recall we saw it twice. Did we only see it once? Because I remember we had comments, and I thought it came back and it was somewhat improved, but if it was a one-time review, that wouldn't have been the case. And then the other question I have, is this an entirely new design, or is it basically what we saw before that's now fleshed out?
It's development of that one-time concept review. And as far as I could tell in the record, it truly was just a one-time review. And, but you could consider this is kind of officially the first concept review, like I said, of the formal application.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we start? All right. All right. Please.
Thank you to staff and commissioners.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name's Noah Greer. I'm here with On Design Architects it's been 18 months since I've been here with this project. We are still at conceptual level of development on the plans. We have made a number of changes in response to your comments from 18 months ago. So I'll run through the basics as I talk about the project. The site itself, and I'm going to skip to our site plan. Currently vacant, as staff pointed out, formerly a gas station. Currently proposed, as before, a 9-unit hotel on the site. The site itself is just under 13,000 square feet. It's a great location, I would argue, at the corner of Castillo and Montecito. One could argue it's a high-profile location. One could argue that it's not a great. It has some limitations, let's say, specifically a very wide right-of-way that we're accommodating with our parkway and new sidewalks, and a fair amount of noise, both from the freeway and certainly from the street corner.
And the train.
And the train, yes. And it's in a beautiful neighborhood. I would argue that there is no single dominant style in the neighborhood of West Beach. However, we are respecting the El Pueblo Viejo in terms of the style that we're proposing. So the changes since the last time your board has seen the project include, let's see if I can zoom in here. We've widened I'm incapable of zooming in here, it would seem. So I'll talk about, when we get to the floor plans, I'll get into the specifics. And at a high level, the changes are, we thicken the exterior walls to give us additional recess on those windows. We've pushed the vehicle gate farther into the building to have less conflict with pedestrian traffic as they're entering the site. The pedestrian zones have been widened with more parkway. We have slightly reduced the building footprint. The landscape has been developed, so I'll show you the proposal for that, including a courtyard and a fountain. And we've worked with Civil to accommodate infiltration areas and chambers. And that's been a lot of what we've been spending the last 18 months on, is working with Civil and working with the city in terms of transportation and stormwater.
I'm sorry if I can just pause you for a second.
Mhm.
Do we have the minutes for this meeting, the original concept review?
I happen to bring them.
Okay.
Do you want?
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, let's pull them up and let's pause your time and kind of go through those first, because I wasn't quite sure as how this was being categorized. I just realized that it'll be best to go through the minutes first, and that way we remember what we said. It was during COVID, so all things are hazy. Okay, so these were our comments. We had some commissioners believe the design looks too whimsical and should be more serious. 2, overall, the massing appears to be acceptable. The commission needs to see neighboring properties presented on the plans. 3, the scale seems appropriate and acceptable. 4, the Montecito Street elevation should be more street-friendly and treated as a residential structure. 5, push the entry to the parking garage back on the Montecito Street elevation. 6, some commissioners feel that the tower overhang is excessive. 7, clearance for how the garage gate opens needs to be resolved. 8, increase the depth of all exterior walls to show a deeper recess in the windows and doors. 9, the west elevation pop-out is excessive. 10, the staircase leading to the second floor needs to be more serious and resolved. 11, the commission is concerned about the design for the noise reduction wall on the elevations. 12, the Mirador balcony element on the north elevation is not resolved well and needs to be redesigned. 13, show the wrought iron balcony and make more traditional EPV, 14, show precedent or inspiration for details throughout. 15, the spacing between windows is too thin, thicken with more plaster. I think it was particular windows for that. And then 16, return with 3D models for neighborhood context and scale. All right, okay. So now with that, and if you, as you go through, maybe pointing out especially those comments, how you answer them.
I will, thank you. And commissioners, I should say, the things that we don't have on that list, I believe we have everything on that list. We do not have 3D models at this level of development, and we don't have design details and precedent yet. Of course, we will bring them to you.
And
Okay.
Mr. Greer, I just want to interrupt you because if you want to zoom in, there's the plus and minus tool to the right
Gotcha.
of the hand at the top, if you want to zoom in for the commission.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'll zoom out, in fact, to describe the adjacent buildings. To our north, we have the Genealogical Society. Just eyeballing it here, I didn't dimension it, maybe 40 feet north of the property line. Most of our structure is set in 15 feet, but I believe it's as close as, say, 7.5, 7 feet something from that north property line. To our east, we have the Santa Cruz Market, which is built with the 0 lot line. And at that point, we're satisfying a planter there, of a 5-foot planter. Okay. So looking at the buildings themselves in a little more detail. Again, we have 9 rooms. The building itself is just under 7,300 square feet. Building A is the structure at the front of the site, let's say, along Montecito Street. It has 4 rooms. Building B at the north has 5 rooms. And the parking is accessed off Montecito on the eastern side of the site here, beneath the building. And the intention there is to avoid a big visible parking lot at the front of the site and create a sort of stronger street presence for the project. The project was designed with the adjacent structures in mind. In general, the building is pushed to the east property line near Santa Cruz Market there and pulled away, certainly much farther away than it has to be from the northern property line. Okay. The site itself, the curb cut is pushed away from Castillo Street. And in general, we're using mass thickness and openings along the streetscape to try to sort of ground the building and give it a little bit of movement. Okay, and then you'll see on this site plan along here, that's a courtyard wall that we'll see in the street elevation. The intention there, again, is just to create usable space and to provide some shielding from the noise of the busy intersection. Okay, talking about building 2, plan to over here. The generally have 2 studios on the first floor. We do have living rooms and grand bathrooms. That's certainly to design. That's from working with a hotel interiors team. That's what they strongly recommend for today's market. And that's why we've ended up with what, to my eye, might be an unusual floor plan, but that it's intentionally designed as such. Okay, the buildings are in fact 2 separate buildings split down the middle along this east to west line. All right, I'll now jump to the elevations. After a brief stop at the roof plan, one of the changes we'll be looking at is the introduction of flat roofs with parapets. Your board did not see that last time. The intention there is to accommodate and hide the solar that we're now required to have as part of the project. Okay, starting on view 3 here. Okay, this is the south elevation. One could argue it's the primary facade that faces Montecito Street. You see here the pedestrian entrance adjacent to the gated vehicular entrance, parking located behind that. We have the tower element, strong in the facade, and then architectural flourishes, although less flourishy than last time your board saw them at your request. It has been simplified with no wrought iron, smaller overhangs on the tower at your request. And then here you'll see on the right, that's a portion of that flat parapet roof that we've introduced to hide the solar. Okay. Now we're looking at the west elevation. This elevation faces Castillo, and you see the 2 separate buildings. We have a wrought iron railing at the stair there. Other than that, we've lost some of the additional ornamentation we had last time your board saw this. And again, you're seeing the flat roof that's pushed back from the street elevation a bit, where we're hiding the solar. Okay. This east elevation, this faces Santa Cruz Market, which again has a 0 lot line, so it's really not a very visible elevation. The changes were quite minor. We just shifted some windows and removed one of these openings on the ground level. Okay, and then lastly on our north elevation, again on the left here, that's where we have the parking under the building. This faces north, again, towards the Santa Barbara Genealogical Society. And the intention here was to push this portion, this 2-story portion, the tallest portion of the building, is pushed back 15 feet from that north property line. Okay. Again, your board pointed out some of the detailing we had was, let's call it funky, at this balcony here. We've simplified that. Again, we're not bringing details to you. Of course, we'd come back with construction details for how we propose to build that and detail it. Okay? And in general, the primary change here from the last time your board saw it, of course, is apparently that I've lost my ability to use a basic PDF viewer. Is this flat parapet roof portion. Before, we had tile roofs throughout. So this is a change. Our intention was to keep that parapet as low as possible while still being functional to hide the solar. So in general, looking at all of the elevations, we're really considerably below the height that we're allowed. We are allowed to build a 3-story, 45-foot high building with 0 setbacks and minimal landscape buffers. And I would argue that we're really proposing to do something that is, in fact, respectful of what we have around us and certainly less than what we could build. Now, very quickly, I'll wrap it up. Just looking at landscape. Okay. The general intention is that behind that site wall at the corner, we're creating a usable courtyard for the visitors with a sizable specimen sycamore. And then we have 2 jacarandas proposed along the Montecito Street elevation. Additionally, we have a variety of vines and colorful plantings in front of that site wall. That site wall is proposed at 6 feet high. So the intention there is to soften that, but still create a usable courtyard. Okay, to wrap up, the intention for this project is that it's an annex to a much larger hotel that's proposed. It's entitled at 302 West Montecito, just down the road. The larger hotel will host lobby, reception, and housekeeping, and we'll just have minimal facilities for that on-site here with no on-site staff, in fact. All of the parking for this project is on-site, and I hope your board will agree that the changes we made have respected comments from your board, and I hope you'll find that they're appropriate for the location. And I should say, we also submitted street elevations. I didn't realize we're at the end of the set here. Okay. Got it, yes, thank you. Showing the sidewall in both buildings at the same time. So here, we're looking at the Montecito Street elevation. You're seeing building B behind here on the left, and you're seeing the 6-foot sidewall there. Here we're looking at the Castillo Street elevation with the 6-foot sidewall, the very short, not very short, somewhat short pedestrian, and you're seeing both of the buildings there, and hopefully reading some of the additional setback that we have on building A from that elevation. Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so if that concludes your presentation, we'll go on to public comment on this item. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please come forward. If you haven't filled out a speaker slip, you can do so afterwards, so we make sure we get your name and information. But you can come to the podium, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak on this item. Let me see, one gentleman.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Arthur Sylvester, president of the Santa Barbara County Genealogical Society. Everything I see looks pretty good. I'd like to know what kind of a wall or fence is proposed between this project and the Genealogical Society. We have a big problem down there with homeless climbing over walls and fences. We've had to string up quite a bit of barbed wire between us, that vacant lot, and the market, the railroad, and Castillo Street. They slip through the properties, climb over the fence, and we've got a pretty nice bit of forest in there of 50 redwood trees that the homeless like to camp under. So I'd like to hear more about what you propose between us and you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, any other member of the public wishing to comment? And sir, did you fill out the speaker slip over here? Okay. Yeah, it should be. Okay. Okay, great, thank you. All right, anyone else from the public wishing to comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment.
Excuse me, Chair
Oh.
Grumbine.
Sorry.
I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive written correspondence from Mary Turley and Bonnie Donovan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, too. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, so back to the commission, and the applicant, if you can take a seat. All right, so back to the commission now for questions. Any questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, would you like the applicant to answer the question about the wall?
Sure, that can be one of your questions.
Okay, what do you propose
If you go
for
to
a
the
wall
site, if you
between?
go to the site plan, and
Certainly.
show us what is being proposed. Along that, there we go.
Commissioners, we propose a 6-foot wall. Stucco and finish has not been detailed thus far.
So it's a masonry wall.
Yes.
Oh, correct.
Okay, thank you. But
Follow up,
Yeah,
would
Commissioner
you
Freed.
include landscaping, of course? You will, I mean, with the wall, we will be including landscaping.
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And it might be, and actually, if you go to your landscape plan, maybe just if we can see what that area is looking like right now. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it'll be art glass, so we can't comment on it. Okay, so thank you. There's the landscaping at the top there. Okay, great. Along the wall, palm trees and some other lower planting. Okay, thank you. Next question. Questions from any commissioners? Questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Butler.
so I'm intimately familiar with this intersection. I had actually, my car caught on fire when the gas station was there. And I had to stop
Did
at the
it
gas
burn down
station.
the gas
It
station?
It was a company car, fortunately. My question pertains to the perimeter of the wall in front around the corner, because if nothing else, from a design standpoint, than visibility. Because that intersection is crazy. Gas stations, liquor store, Santa Cruz Market, 7-Eleven, et cetera. So, did you say it was 6 foot? What's the height? Let me pose the question. What is the height of the wall in the front around the corner?
That's correct. It is currently proposed at 5 feet, and it has been reviewed with transportation, and that's partly why we've ended up pushing it back to the point that we have. It's certainly why we pushed the entrance to our site as far to the east as we could, while still accommodating one row of parking spots along the east side,
And you said
just
5
because of the traffic concerns.
Yeah, you said 5 feet?
6 feet, I believe. If I said 5 feet, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I believe we're showing this and dimensioning it as a 6-foot wall.
6,
Yes, it is 6.
yeah. Okay, and then I saw one design element on the, I think it's the west side. There's a balcony, a single balcony in back.
Mm-hmm.
That's not integrated or used anywhere else, is that correct?
That is correct.
So that's the single use of a balcony structure is in that one side of the building, correct?
That's correct. And previously, we did have a number of wrought iron balconies as part of the design. Some of the comments we received were that they didn't really quite feel cohesive with the rest of the design. So
Okay, thank you.
As a follow-up question on that, was that where the Mirador was? Was it the Mirador before, and then now it's changed into the wood balcony? Okay.
that's correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right, other questions? Commissioner Drury?
On one, on that exhibit, is that the rather contentious staircase that shows on the
It-
building on the left?
Formerly contentious.
It is, yes. Well, hopefully it's formerly
Right.
contentious. It may still be the contentious stairway. Yes, in fact, before we had some very large-scale steps that were sandstone
right.
capped stucco, and at this point we simplified it, although it's difficult to see in the rendering there. There's sort of a slipper shoe-style archway beneath the stairs, and then we have a wrought iron visible railing. Of course, it has yet to be detailed.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions?
The parapets are 36, 42.
At this one, I think we're showing them as 32 to 36. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, let's go into comments. Who wants to kick us off? Commissioner Drury.
Yes, I think this is vastly improved. I still think that staircase, I only see it in this kind of, this is not really a detail, this is simply an elevation drawing. But I think it needs to be less airy. It seems to me I think where that curve underneath it goes, it gets kind of narrow right there, it seems to me. There's stuff that needs to be, but I think in general, except for, I don't know what those people in that Mirador are looking at. Are they looking at the side of Santa Cruz Market?
Oh, no, they're looking at 50 redwoods on the Santa Barbara
Oh, they're-
Genealogical
okay,
Society
okay.
site,
Oh,
hopefully.
that's right. That's okay. That's
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Yeah, generally I think is a great improvement. Thank you.
All right. Other,
I have a question to ask first, and that would be the staircase that Commissioner Drury was addressing. Do you see that from the street at all, or is that completely hidden by the wall?
You would see it from the street, and I'll show you the street elevation, if in fact I can navigate my way there. Admittedly, the details there are not completely sorted, and if I can find our street elevations here. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
I'll zoom us in. So where the side elevation wraps and lands into that staircase is admittedly not resolved at this point at all.
all right. Commissioner Lenvik.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We commented the last time this project was before us that the location of the entry to the garage was too prominent onto Montecito Street, and we suggested that that whole element has to be pulled back, and that has not been done yet. And I feel strongly that we do not want to have garage openings to ground floor parking in which the entry is right out at the street. It should be back behind the primary facade of the building.
Okay, so I guess I'll turn that back into a question in terms of, I'll rewind a little bit, and that's a
Well,
good question.
It's a comment.
Yeah, I know, but I want to make sure that as a I'm going to ask a question, follow-up question. So is that true? Is that exactly where it was before?
It is pushed back somewhat, probably along somewhere 12 to 18 inches in terms of that facade of the structure. I'll be honest, my understanding of the comments were primarily driven by practical concerns about accessing the site. And to that end, we relocated the gate itself, which used to slide along the elevation here, back behind this mechanical equipment room. The overall design and appearance of that Montecito Street elevation is generally unchanged.
Yeah. You know, our comment was not regarding operations, it was regarding aesthetics. And
Okay.
I think you really got to push that back. I'm not even sure that you need a tower on this building. I think towers become trite after a while, and I don't think we need a tower on a building, but I don't have any objection to it if you choose to. Back down and looking at the elevation from Castillo Street, on the right side, you have a double roof there and a little recess between those two elements, an opening, and that's only it appears maybe a couple feet deep, and I just don't know that it's really necessary to have that. I think that elevation could be further simplified, losing that second floor recess. I don't know that you'd ever see a shadow there. And it's only a 2 feet deep recess.
Still a nice shadow.
Can we see that in plan view?
Yeah. And actually, but so I want to make sure I'm getting the right elevation that you're concerned with.
Yeah. Right.
So that 2-foot recess, and then can you go to the elevation of that and point that out? Okay, got it. Okay, that's the,
Yeah.
okay. So and your comment was you don't think that's necessarily necessary?
No, it doesn't add anything to the building, in my opinion. I think a simpler facade there would be, without that recess, would be perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
I may be the only one that thinks that, but
We'll record what you think.
thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Commissioner Butler.
I would support that comment. I think it simplifies. The design looks a little busy from that side as it is. You've got a tower, you've got one pitched roof, you've got 3 pitched roofs on the right side, then you've got stair, et cetera, et cetera. I think that could clean the building up quite a bit and would improve just the overall, make it a little simpler, a little cleaner. So I would support the comment.
All right. Other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'll present an opposing view.
All right, do it.
It's gotten so serious.
Need more whimsy?
I enjoyed the whimsy
More
before,
donuts?
but I would say that we will benefit by seeing a 3D model because I think that actually might be kind of interesting and activating. And right now, they look like they're in the same plane, even though on the floor plan, we know that they're not. So it might be an interesting feature. I have no objection to the tower. I remember the struggles with the gate and the garage door opening. It almost looked like the gate swung or slid across where the pedestrians were supposed to go in, something like that. So I think that potentially with the illustrations right now look like there's a solid wood door right near the street, and
I think it's wrought iron.
it's wrought iron, and it's back quite a ways. So once again, I think
the
a
3D,
three-dimensional rendering of it is going to help us understand that better. I have a concern about the parapets and the solar because there's been, at least one building I can think of where the solar panels, by the time they were installed, stuck up above the parapets, and that's something we want to avoid. So, you know, if you could just be sure of that before you come back and we find that the parapets grew another foot or two taller. So I'll leave it at that. I think that it's consistent with what we looked at before, and I enjoyed the building. I wouldn't mind a little bit more whimsy, but I may be alone there, so.
All right, I heard a comment about the Oriole / turret. Any thoughts then?
It was a question, but it was a sidebar question. I don't know if the commissioner wants to share his thoughts about why he wanted to ask that.
Did you?
Well, again, I think it's unnecessary. I mean, we're introducing a tower, and then we got a little turret in the corner, and you know, somebody's going to drive by someday and say, "Is this the county courthouse?" I think it's unnecessary. I think it's unnecessary.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm generally supportive of what we're looking at, but I'm also very aware that a number of the questions that are being asked are addressing what's not in the drawings. In other words, there's not enough development for us to make some discerning judgments. So I'm generally supportive, but I want to see it more fully developed.
Yeah, and I agree. And to piggyback on that comment, I think Vice Chair House said the 3D renderings, I think, is the key thing right now, because a lot of these comments I might agree with or disagree with. I don't even know yet, because seeing them in 3D will help answer that. Whether I feel that garage opening is not okay, or whether it feels like a big opening and okay. So yeah, so I think that a lot of that will need to come from those 3D models. Okay, other comments that want to get added in here? This is not for. Let's see. This is for no final appealable action. So we want to make comments on the project compatibility findings and project, and we know that we're going to have find project compatibility findings before it gets design approval. So we may want to make comments on it. I'm a little bit leery about some of the comments because we don't have a 3D. Because I think before I would feel comfortable anyways for a lot of these things. I think we can give certain comments and we'll go down a list of all the comments we have so far. But I think on the project compatibility side of things, I think a lot of that still needs to be answered via the 3D, or at least before a number of the commissioners are feeling comfortable about it in that range.
Excuse me, Chair John Bryan. The commission shouldn't feel pressured to continue this to the planning commission. You're certainly willing to have another review. No problem at all with that.
Okay, great. Okay, so why don't I just summarize our comments for now, and then let's see where we can go from there. So I and I know other commissioners have mentioned that they do feel it's vastly improved. I think there's a lot of good development that's happened, and you've listened to a lot of our comments well and developed it, the design accordingly. One of the elements that still needs to be more resolved, let's just put it that way, design resolve, is the staircase, the exterior staircase, which we will definitely want to see in the 3D renderings that as well, which brings the next item is we'll want to see 3D renderings. And I think from across, I think to satisfy some comments about making sure the solar and mechanical is screened, maybe taking views from across the street, the sidewalk across, looking, and that'll probably be your biggest vantage point to see whether you can see some of that, and also just for the effect of the whole building. But views from a number of street views, and we'll say at least 3 street views of the project. So then one commissioner brought up, and I think there's probably other concerns as well. So at least several commissioners are concerned with the location of the entry of the garage. We recognize that you have moved it back. It may need to be moved back beyond the plane of the adjacent building, and that we'll want to see the 3D model to understand it more and the view of it more. But there still is concern that it's still too close. The entry of the garage is the wall plane of the entry of the garage is still too close to the sidewalk. So the Oriole slash turret comment, I actually that element jumped out as me as well. As now I think the rest of the building is kind of is calmed down and is very elegant in a lot of ways, and I think that element still sticks out as a sort of, I don't know if it was a leftover from before or not, but it does seem a little bit. It doesn't seem quite at home. The tower I think is I think it's nice, and I'm not against towers in Santa Barbara, so. But I think that the Oriole window. I know that there was at least one commissioner that was at least open for no tower or tower, and voiced as such. Let's see. So then on the west elevation, if we can go to the west elevation, there was at least some commissioners concerned with or thinking that the 3 wall planes weren't necessary, and perhaps combining 2 of them, but definitely a 3D study wanted on this view as well to understand it. And other commissioners think it might be acceptable, but want to see it in 3D to make sure. Let's see, parapet solar, we talked about that. Staircase, yeah, we got staircase on there. I guess another comment that will be in the 3D views to look at will be the effect of the wall in the corner, the 6-foot wall, curved wall, and seeing how that is both blocks views visually of the street and how it relates to the street frontage and to the planters and how that whole corner feels. So we'll want study of that. Let's see, that's all I have on, and knowing that a lot of all the details will be coming to us going forward as well, of course.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Vice Chair Hayes.
Also, you might add a suggestion that you should work with the neighbor to your north to discuss the appropriate height of the wall. 8 feet might be better. And another thought I had, which maybe others will think has some merit, is that since it's 2 buildings, you might handle the parapets differently, articulate them differently. Not have the cornice on one of them, have an interesting corner detail.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's add that, and let's add the work with the neighbor and potentially an 8-foot wall.
And Mr. Chair, would you add to your comment about the screen wall in the front? The applicant admittedly said the wall does not resolve with the railing to the stair, but that should be
That's a good
something we
point.
keep our
Yep.
eye on with respect to that
Curved
wall.
wall, yep, curved corner wall, and resolution with the stair. Needs to be studied. Needs to be resolved. Okay, good point. Any other comments that want to be added in? All right. Okay, so then I look for a motion. Does someone want to make a motion with those comments?
So would the motion be to return to the board before going to
Yeah.
planning commission?
I think so. I think that's what it's sounding like.
Is that a motion? Just-
No. We can
Who wants to make it?
So moved.
All right, Commissioner Ely, thank you.
Second.
All right, Commissioner Drury seconding it. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice work. All right, so now we are on for our last item. This is item number 5, 17 West Cannon Perdido Street. This is a new item. This is for one-time concept review. So this is, the project site is located within El Pueblo Viejo Landmarks District. Proposal for a change of use and renovation of an existing 3-story retail building to creative office use, includes subterranean basement level. This is a renovation, includes new exterior openings, new central courtyard, new core improvements, and new restrooms, corridors, and elevators. This is a one-time concept review. No final appealable action will be taken at this place's meeting. Project compatibility findings would be required for project design approval. All right. So welcome. And if you could introduce yourselves for the record, and then we'll have any staff comments, and then we'll go from there with your.
Great, thank you. I'm Sherry Jolly with SAE Architects.
Scott Sanfilippo.
And part of my interruption, could you please both speak into the microphone? If you need to, you can
Yeah,
pull that
grab
other
that
one
one
down
over there.
and you turn
Yeah.
them on just with the button and the green light will come on. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you got to be kind of close to it, so.
Scott Sanfilippo with Praelium Commercial Real Estate. I'm one of the owners of the former Nordstrom building, 17 West Cannon, Perdido.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great, so thank you for taking your time today to let us share some thoughts on this property. And first, I'm going to let Scott speak a bit about the vision. Let's see, I'm sorry, paging up. There you go. And the need for the creative office space in Santa Barbara.
Oh, and I probably should have mentioned as well, you'll have, you have 15 minutes.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
go.
We purchased the Nordstrom building, or the leasehold interest. The city of Santa Barbara has the ground lease underneath in November of this year. When we were looking at the purchase of the building and continue to do that, what we noted, as well as what the city noted in the report that they received from Cosmont in 2019 regarding State Street, the downtown State Street, and recommendations that they made was that there was about 400,000 square feet of retail, too much in the city, and reducing that amount would be a benefit for the surrounding businesses. We looked at the building both as potential residential, and we recognize the need the city has for that, based on the construction of the building and being on top of the subterranean garage and what we could put there, and the awkward shape of the building to turn into residential. We decided that that was not something that was going to work. The other thing that we noted was that there was a lack of quality office space. Actually, there's a real demand for office in the Santa Barbara downtown State Street area, as well as Goleta. Vacancy for office over the last 10 years has been less than 5%. In the downtown Santa Barbara in the State Street, it's a little higher than that, but for a company such as like a Sonos that wants to expand and stay in Santa Barbara, there is no space that's 20,000 square feet or more that's available. And we've gone through and looked at this building, and with the plans that we've put together, we actually think it would be something really special that the community would really like.
Okay. So we felt that the Nordstrom building was, very well conceived and reflected the Santa Barbara architecture. So the efforts that we're making here, that we're proposing, are really to bring natural light into the building, access to views and fresh air, so that it can really go from a retail building that focuses its attention inward to now being a building that, draws light, views, and natural air. So as you look at the, kind of the bird's eye view here, the existing on the left and proposed on the right, you'll see that there's the clear story arched windows in the center of the building that is now over the existing escalator. So what we're proposing is to cut a 60 by 90 opening into the center of the building, creating almost an interior courtyard, if you will. And so that really allows us to create an outdoor amenity there, outdoor, indoor, this kind of indoor-outdoor space, and bring natural light into the core of the building, because otherwise, the natural light is only going to come in about 30 feet and it starts to drop off. So we are looking at increasing the windows on the outside, but also creating this kind of really special, unique courtyard space in the interior. We think that move doesn't do anything. You can see here we're not changing, contextually what's happening with the building, with the surrounding buildings. We're respecting all of that, not doing anything dramatic there. As you start to look at the first floor, you'll see that off of the Canon Perdido entry, you would come into the building, and then this would be this area here would be open to above. There would be a new stair right now shown as circular. Who knows? This is still very conceptual. And then also worth pointing out here is you'll be seeing in the 3D views that we're increasing and adding more openings here, windows to the exterior, but where we have the existing exit stairs, all of those remain in place. So we don't, add any windows or increase the size of the windows there. We focus our efforts towards what's going to make it a light, creative office space. We don't have the property here or in the shaded gray or on this side of the plan. Then as you move to the second floor, you'll see we've created new core areas with new restrooms that are adjacent to the existing exit stairs. And we're also proposing a new bank of elevators here to be the main elevators that would be used circulating the floors. We have an open to the courtyard aisleway, hallway here, if you will, that connects those exit stairs. And then this becomes an outdoor balcony for the second floor as an amenity for those tenants. As we move to the third floor, now you'll see the whole 60 by 90 area open to the sky above and open to the balcony on the second floor and to the courtyard on the first floor. We also are increasing the number of doors and windows to the balcony that overlooks the Paseo there. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Back, sorry. Let's see, and then here in section, you can see that we're looking at adding probably be something like a Torrance window to the interior of the courtyard to bring as much light into those spaces as possible, and take full advantage of the fact that we're cutting that large opening in the building. And then just the section looking the other direction, there is some seismic, some structural steel that you'll see, and we'll be dealing with all of that. And again, the stair is really, it's just kind of showing the framework of it right now. It's very conceptual and not really designed yet. So here we're looking, we've got the existing photos for you to show, and then a conceptual Revit model looking at existing versus proposed. So at the Canon Perdido entry, we're keeping the main entry doors and window as is. We're enlarging the arched and creating arched windows to either side. We're adding back canopies. The building originally had canopies there on the ground floor. And so we're adding that back. We're adding a couple of Juliet balconies with operable doors and windows on the second floor, overlooking the walkway that cuts through along the Paseo. And then we've added windows on the third floor that are kind of deeply set, kind of a simple window there. We're also showing those Juliet balconies along the side. There are some small ones there now, and we're just trying to get more light and views from the building. There's also the gates that are along the ground floor there. There used to be at one time a flower shop. Maybe some of you remember there. So we're keeping the opening, but filling it in with glazing. So we're adding, again, more light in there. Then as we go along, sorry. So as you start to turn the corner and look at from Cannon Perdido and Chapala, on the left, this is the area where that exit stair is, so we've kind of left that quiet and not really introduced any new openings there. There are existing balconies and Juliet balconies along the corner, and so we're increasing the size there, again, just trying to increase the amount of light. We're keeping the existing windows on the ground floor, and those, step along the slope of the street. That's the way it's constructed now. And then we're adding the canopies back in there. We also think aesthetically it kind of helps balance with having the larger Juliet balconies. We're adding arched windows on the third floor here to try to bring light into the corner of that third floor space. We've also added a larger arched window that you see here is the smaller existing, and then we've increased that and set that in to give some depth. As we start to move around from Chapala, just looking at that elevation, the Chapala entry, we leave as existing, as well as this area that has the exit stair. But we do try to get some light and views here, and this overlooks the drive that goes into the parking below. And so we've kept a very simple window style here on the second floor and third floor, and then added a pair of Juliet balconies above this door. Then as we continue along, it was really hard to get any existing photos here because you've actually got the retail butts right up to it here. So we are looking at seeing if we can, again, add a Juliet balcony and larger window there, and then have some windows on the second and third floor. We know that there's rooftop here, so we might do something to obscure the glass, so we're getting natural light but not seeing everything that's on that rooftop. And then from the Paseo, you're looking up and seeing the balcony here on the third floor, and we've got the entry from the Paseo. The entry itself, we're keeping exactly as is, but we would like to add some smaller balconies, Juliet balconies, and operable doors here. And then we're adding a lot more doors to the balcony, so that we can, again, just trying to get more light into the building. And then as we come around on this side, one thought we had is the clear story raised roof portion that I had mentioned at the beginning that's over the escalator. It has 4 arched windows, smaller arched windows two on each side and then one large one. We would like to be able to repurpose those and use those here where you have this nice view onto the hills. And we thought it would be great if we can reuse those windows. We're proposing just simple Torrance windows on either side of the chimney. And then these, again, we have the situation, we have a raised portion, so even getting some clear story-ish higher windows here would be advantageous. And then lastly, we've got the Juliet balconies that wrap the corner from the entry, and then that brings us back to the entry at Canon Perdido. The elevations are here for your reference as well, with the existing on the bottom. Again, we're trying to keep the changes as modest and in keeping with the style of the building as possible. So that's the intent. And here you're seeing where they have the existing gates, and I'm sorry, the gates actually are here. They're not detailed, but they're there where the flower shop used to be, and adding the windows here. And then along this elevation, you'll see that we added the arched windows on top, the larger Juliet balconies, and the windows above the garage area, the garage drive-in.
And Chair Grumbine, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that is 15 minutes, so it'll be up to
Okay.
you to grant
That's
right.
okay.
additional time.
Yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah, that just
Okay.
brings you back here.
All right. Nice. All right, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So if that completes your presentation, let's go to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item? You need to fill out a speaker slip, but I'm not seeing anyone. So, all right, we'll close public comment and back to the commission for questions.
Mr. Chair.
All right, Commissioner Drury.
So we went to a lot of trouble on that archway to the left off of Canon Perdido, because it always looked to us like just this black hole. I mean, really unwelcoming. Do you propose anything? Is that what's proposed?
That's existing.
It's as existing. We haven't done anything to it, but I agree.
You
You're-
mean the hole into the,
Yes,
into-
and
into
yeah, it's
retail,
kind of the
right.
tunnel into what
is.
is so lively, and
Yes.
it's not telling you that, right?
Right.
Yes, we
Something-
hadn't considered it, but I think
Something
that
we're
that's a really good
considering anyway.
point.
Well, I'll just save my comments for comment.
For comment?
We don't
Thank you.
control it. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, so that already
Oh,
got,
that's-
that already
no,
got
that is,
changed to
that-
our,
that-
because
that-
originally we had, there was a twisty column.
That's right, that's
off-
right.
Off,
Okay.
All right,
we
thank
do
you.
agree with you.
but it is at least a better one than it was.
It's a missed opportunity.
that, though? Or is that not?
Yes.
Yes, so again, what we own is a leasehold interest.
Right.
And so a portion of the building is not owned by us. It's actually owned by Paseo Nuevo owner, PRCP.
I think that's who we did the lower
Right.
portion. Yeah. Okay,
It's got a lot better lighting in it now than it had before.
and it doesn't have that goofy, twisted, wannabe Solomonic column. All right.
Culvert.
That's true. All right, questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just point of clarification. So I didn't see any, but I may have missed it. There were no changes to the existing roof lines, correct? With the exception of where you want to open up the center of the building, but
Correct.
you are working with the existing roof, that's my
Correct.
question?
Yes, we're working with the existing roof lines, so.
And we're working with the local architect, Brian Kernell, very closely to make sure what we're doing fits within the HLC guidelines.
Other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Commissioner Jordan.
a question about the Chapala Street. If I'm walking along Chapala Street, who owns the paving and the landscaping that I'm walking past?
Can Can you pull up that picture? I believe we may not own, but do have control.
Cool. All right, yeah, right, exactly. So the paving, which is currently brick, would fall under your purview.
Is this the area you're talking about on Chapala?
Yes.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe that's correct, or in connection with the city.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
My initial assumption when you were walking through things was that that new opening in the center was an opening to the sky, but it's really an
Yes.
atrium. It's got a roof over it, correct?
No. It is
okay.
open to the
Because I saw
sky.
some additional roof structure with that big arched window in it. So what is that, if not the cover over that opening?
Where did you see that?
Yeah, that's why.
Towards
that's
the
my
end.
question.
Towards the end. No, because
Yeah,
we
there's
looked at
a-
existing and proposed, and there's a new roof element.
There's an elevation that shows.
Oh, an elevation?
It was sent.
I thought that was the existing clear story.
Yes.
They
yes,
want
that
to
was a
reuse, they want to
picture of
reuse the
existing
windows
clear
in it,
story.
but not the
Right,
device.
but
Yes.
I don't think that's what we're looking at. Go towards the end, the elevations.
Okay.
Right.
Right there.
There,
Yeah,
right there.
Back up. Okay, on the, okay, so
Oh,
that's
see,
on
this
the
is existing. This is
Okay.
existing.
One
Yeah.
more, too. Can you just go to the
One
next?
more.
So you're
Sure.
proposing removing that whole thing?
Removing
Okay,
that,
and your
yes.
new opening will be open to the sky.
Yes.
Okay.
The current opening is,
60 by 90.
oh no, that 60 by 90 is what we're,
New.
60 by
Oh,
90
I'm
is
sorry.
what we're proposing.
The current, oops, sorry, I stabbed myself in the eye. That's nice.
But question,
This is 30 by 30.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
can you go to the slide after that, or the
Sure.
elevation after that?
Uh-huh.
So top, proposed, Steve, that's what I saw, first of all, was behind, to the right of the tower. That is that little extra?
Oh, you're seeing
that
this?
Yeah, what is that?
I think that is the chimney that's on the other side that's
Oh, we don't
existing.
see-
That's being
Yeah.
blocked right now. from-
Yeah. And we wouldn't be, oops, sorry. If you're asking about this line, I think that's a error with the model right now. Because we would be working only with the existing roof lines, and you wouldn't see anything above. You wouldn't, this would be
I don't know
removed,
that
but
I've ever seen
otherwise,
that.
we wouldn't. You haven't seen this? You don't really see it. You don't get that view. It's hard to ever get that view.
Yeah.
Believe me, I've tried.
So, other questions? So where are you hiding the $5 million gallon ring bucket? That's gonna-
Yeah, the cistern, yeah. Well, we would definitely be working, yeah, we would be, working with.
Just some plates.
several-
You fill that up,
Make it a Pirates of the Caribbean ride?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. We'll let the engineers figure that one out.
That's another question. So there is a basement right now?
Yes.
And is that
Yes.
storage or is that underground parking?
No, there's, underneath the building, the footprint's about 45,000 feet. About 50% of that underneath is currently subterranean parking, and the other half, and I don't know the exact square footage, I think it's about 28,000 square feet, is a basement on 2 levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We're
no,
not-
it's not our purview, I'm just curious. Will it continue
Sure.
to be storage, basically, or something like that?
Undecided at this point. We're
Storage
going
rentals,
through and
yeah.
Right.
we're in the process of demoing out the existing improvements inside, so that as we continue these conversations, it's available to be looked at, and the basement is being cleared out as well right now.
All right. Other questions? for the commission? Let's see. I had a question. So, what are the existing doors and windows right now that are on there? Are they Torrents?
Yeah, they're essentially torrents. They're like the
Okay.
steel.
Okay, so you're basically going to match
Yes.
Muntin proportions, opening. You're matching all the sticking and style. Okay, great.
And we're trying to create as many operable windows as can make sense.
Okay.
On both on the exterior and on the courtyard.
Okay. And then I had a note on the. Can you go to the elevations? Yeah, and maybe just towards the beginning, and you can
Okay.
just flip through it. I think there might have been a few little questions here
This
and
was
there.
the first one at Cannon Perdido.
Yeah, not that one. Oh, actually, that one. Well, no, I'll just save it for comments. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think keep going. I think actually it was in this. I know it was in the section through the courtyard with the.
Can we go back there?
Yeah, let's go to the section. Showing the glazing. Okay, and I know that this is just still in the very initial phases.
Right.
But were there thoughts on making the upper floor, where there's just pure glass wall of glazing, having some divisions and having some definition? The lower floor, I see that, and I don't know if that's existing, but you have the segmented arch, or at least implied, and then it's actually a rectangular opening, but has some wall to it.
Right.
Was there thought of that? Is this just not developed enough to be worked through yet?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
I mean,
Okay.
we have done a conceptual rendering of it. It's on the last page of this? Okay, okay.
Oh, okay.
So this is the idea, this is the vision, but it is very conceptual. So the stair is really just a framework right now. It's not designed. But the idea is to get planting to have, maybe some good-sized olive trees in there, to have, nano walls that can open up to the courtyard on both ends here, to really have it be a space that brings life to the building.
In looking at some of the other projects in downtown Santa Barbara, and I'm not from Santa Barbara, but I've spent enough time here to fall in love with it. You'll be walking down a building and you'll see a small alley, and you'll go down and you'll feel like you have, found a secret. And then it'll open up into wine tasting or something else that really gets your attention. And so when we looked at the interior courtyard here, we really tried to take that into consideration so that when you entered it, you really did feel like you've discovered something.
And to be clear, you would be walking in the doors of the building off of Cannon Perdido, and there'd be a security desk there. And so it is inside the building, but we're trying to make it as though it's an outdoor corner.
Mr. Chair, just for the sake of asking a question of staff, that interior courtyard would not be in our purview, is that correct? Because it's not
If
directly
there's
connected.
birds there, it's in our purview.
We stand for the birds.
You can fly in from above.
That's great.
Well, there.
I know paseos and courtyards
Our
are,
purview,
but
no. I can't imagine it is, no.
All right. Well, maybe we'll throw
be
that
resolved.
as a question out. Yeah.
We certainly value your
Yeah,
opinion.
okay.
So.
We do that all the time. We even tell people how to drive. Okay, great. I don't have any other questions. Anyone else have any other questions? All right. So with that, why don't we roll into some comments? So this is for one-time concept review. So I think it's a matter of giving comments based on what we're seeing and where the direction's going, and obviously knowing that there's going to be, this is in the very, very first time, but there's going to be plenty of time to talk details and all those other things. But if we do have a general direction for those, I think that's good too.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Commissioner Drury.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Sort of a monolithic thing, and inside was wonderful stuff and perfumes and so on. This is
major consumer of such.
Yeah, oh yeah, you know me.
All the ladies.
I just think it's a wonderful idea. I love the idea of opening everything up. It needs to be done, and I think it suits the architecture of the building itself. These openings that you've created, and I'm in complete support of the project as presented.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
All right.
I'll take a stab. First, I think it is a great thing to reuse a building that is being underused. So I support it. In general, I like the direction you're going. Agree with the commissioner with regard to the openings that you're proposing. I'm sure we'll talk about the nuances of all of those openings. But in general, I'm supportive of the project.
All right. Commissioner Lenvik.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great reuse. If you could show us the elevation of Cannon Perdido Street.
Sure.
Well, yes and no. That's good. On your proposed, where your hand was just there, to the right a little more.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm wondering if the proportions of the pieces there are a little odd. In other words, could the window be a little smaller?
right.
Maybe a little less high. I don't know. It feels like the pieces there are not right. And as I go down on that level, that third level, to the left, you've got 3 windows you're putting in. No, down to the left.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, up, next level up. I think we would like to see more meat, more wall on the corner.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And it may mean you simply, remove the windows over, 3 or 4 feet, and you get a wider corner column, and the other columns are fine or smaller or whatever. But generally, in our Santa Barbara Hispanic architecture, the corner has more substance to it.
Right.
It's supporting, the turn to, whatever. So I think, and that could be, you probably find that same issue elsewhere. But I think that when you get into looking at it closely, or Brian Cornell and you look at it closely, you're going to find that there's some things that you can just improve by moving the width of the pencil over a little bit.
Yes.
And I'm all for that. Now, I realize we don't have any control of the interior courtyard, but when I looked at that interior perspective on the last sheet, I said, if your overhang was down closer to where, why don't you go to that
Can you
last
go over that?
page?
Yeah. Let me tee that up.
I'm just going to throw the idea out. If the overhang was down closer to where the head of the windows are,
Yes.
it would be, the space would feel more personal and
More intimate.
more comfortable. And you may have, you may have a parapet there and a lower overhang or whatever. But again, we have no control of that, and I recognize that. Huh? Well, no, I'm simply saying that, all that white above the head of the window is, okay. So I throw out an idea.
Yep.
Otherwise, I think it's a great project, and I can't see any reason why you can't move very quickly on this.
We-
And be open by Christmas.
In regards to the.
But you can't go there for Christmas shopping anymore.
To the interior, we're still looking at, we need to figure out how to add some shade here as well. Right, we want the outdoor area, but we also want to create something, so if it's raining or the weather's not great, that you still have the opportunity to enjoy that outdoor area.
That's two stories above the walkway on the second floor, and I'm just looking at the big white space there and how it should be viewed. You're looking at it from the standpoint of practicality and how you keep a rain off people. Yeah. You don't see any retail going on the ground floor. It's a question.
No.
It's all offices. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Well,
Vice Chair
I
Haas.
won't be the voice of opposition on this one. I think it's very tastefully done. I think a lot of great comments have been made. I think some of the windows are over large. You need to respect that it's a masonry archetype, and so some of the
Right.
windows are too wide, and there's too little meat between them, and the size of the corner columns, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, I live a block away from here, so I walk by it all the time, and seeing this makes me realize it's in the nature of a department store that it's fortress-like and
Right.
imposing, which is, of the buildings that were built for Paseo Nuevo, this one had a different architect than the rest of the whole complex, and it's the only elegant building in the complex. So you're starting with something that has good bones, and
Yes,
I think that
absolutely.
working with Mr. Cornell, I think you'll have a very nice result.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we do need to refine the sizes and
Yeah.
proportions, and it's even though we do these sort of photorealistic renderings, it's still very conceptual.
Yeah,
So,
understood.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah. I think Commissioner Jordan and then Commissioner Butler.
I just want to second what my fellow commissioners have said. I'm very supportive of the project. I'm very impressed with what I've seen. I also think that one of the hardest things to do is change a building type. And this was a department store, which is very inwardly focused. So I will be very curious to see what you come back with and what you encounter as you're trying to literally change the building typology.
Right.
But I'm very supportive.
Excellent.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Butler.
I think overall, it's a great concept, et cetera. There's a view of the corner of Chapala and Cannon Perdido. As a Silicon Valley survivor of many cube farms, natural light is a requirement. I understand completely. There's one other one, and we'll use this one.
All right, do you want me to go back? All right, I can go to the more the three
No,
green
this
ones?
for timeliness.
Okay.
And this has come up before. You've got canopies, you've got extra windows, you've got a third floor of windows. Now, again, natural light's key. This whole site is a little bit overdone. And I think you've heard the similar comments from others. So I would just look to, if you go to the far right of the proposed, where you see the two windows adjacent, that's a nice spacing, et cetera. But you've got 3 levels. You're going from the ground level to Juliet balconies to whatever, okay?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's a little bit,
Little bit too much.
yeah, I would,
There's a great variety of, when we're looking at the Santa Barbara architecture, and sometimes, and there's balance created out of, out of unique, disparate kind of elements, and it's an art, and so I'm
well,
trying
the
to
one view, the other view really compares the 2 walls against each other, the 2 streets, and that really what called it out in my
Oh,
mind.
okay.
I thought this was, yeah, keep going there. I think it was up earlier. It showed the corner of Chapala
Oh,
and
yes,
Cannon
yes,
Perdido in
that's,
illustration.
this one.
There.
This one? Yeah.
So right there under proposed,
Right.
you see how that portion,
Feels heavy.
correct, is so heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what caught my
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right, and I'll tag some comments on there and sort of playing off Commissioner Butler's there. I had some similar type of thinking. I think very supportive. This is a great project, and you're doing a great thing with it. I actually did a few years back a few different walking tours, and I'd walk people intentionally about Santa Barbara urbanism, walk people around different experiences, and I would literally make them walk along Chapala here just to feel what a really bad sidewalk for a whole block feels like, because you've made this department store that you're facing inward. So when you're not walking on a bit or a parking lot, so you're not walking when you're not walking on a solid wall, you're walking on an inward facing, ignoring you building that doesn't want you and is not inviting at all. So I think where you're going with it is fantastic in terms of even just a street experience of what you're giving to the pedestrian, which I think is a great move for the city, a great benefit to the city. So that's great. But I do think a lot of this refinement, a little bit more wall, a little bit more refinement in how those things get articulated. But I think it's very much, in general, very, very supportable project. So I think that's great work. And then even if we don't, right now we don't know for sure that we don't have purview on the interior, so then I'll take advantage of that to throw out some comments on that. And even one thing we found is even when it's just a courtesy review, like for example the schools, like Santa Barbara High School will come to us, and we don't have any authority at all, but they come to us for reviews and stuff. I think those applicants have also very much benefited from commentary, even though if we don't have final say on things. So with that spirit in mind, I think if I ignore the upper the roof eave overhang, and I kind of take a snapshot of that picture, what tells me that I'm in Santa Barbara? And aside from that little eave, almost nothing else does. Some of it gets, the olive trees get pushed a little bit, but the proportions and openings is very horizontal, and so you probably will get almost the same amount of glazing, but just give some articulation and give your proportions in the sort of Santa Barbara way, and also wall alignments, like for example where your big strip that's holding the upper level, the big strip of plaster that's going between the first floor and the second floor, just even aligning that with the structural column down below. That kind of, it doesn't have to be a super fancy. It could be fairly simple. But it does need, having some detail, I think will help the building just feel like an experience that's holistic. That when you go from the outside to the inside, you're experiencing this cool thing that you found in Santa Barbara, but it really is Santa Barbara outdoor living.
Right.
Absolutely. On the interior courtyard, there's a couple things that we're working on, but we'd really like to do just that, which is find a couple elements that feel Santa Barbara, and add those to the interior courtyard.
And I think it's very doable, and if you're working with Cornell, then you're in good help.
You're
good
not going to
helping
say
hands.
anything about the stair?
I'm not even going to go to the stair. Well,
ahead.
so the
Big
closest,
opportunity
so the
for you.
closest,
There's a big
to that's true.
opportunity,
Yeah, I mean, you think of the examples, and without a skin on it, there's the courthouse stair that does very much that. That spiral going all the way up, and then you can go in the middle and take the best picture ever of the light at the top and how all the geometry works. So I think very much whatever the stair solutions become, the stairs are a great way of dramatizing the space, right? So they can potentially be hugely additive elements, and in Spanish architecture especially. So anyways, that's a great opportunity. So I'm sure you'll be able to work something great
There's
out
a
with that.
bookstore in Oporto in Portugal where they go up and then they meet and then they keep going up
Oh,
to the next floor.
nice.
It's just really wonderful.
I love that idea.
So, so I think, I guess to summarize, any other comments to throw in? Okay, so to summarize, we are very excited, and this is a wonderful project. We're very excited about where you're going with it. We think it's a great reuse of a building, and very much appreciative of the benefit that it's going to be for the city. A few ways, especially with that, but the pedestrian experience upon Chapala Street and the openings out onto the streets are very much welcome, not just for the light factor, but also what they're doing to the pedestrian street experience for those walking by. The interior courtyard, since we're making comments, even if we may not have purview over, but just as if we don't have purview over it, then just as a suggestion to make it bring in more Santa Barbara details and proportions, especially in the openings, to be more vertical as opposed to the horizontal, and the stairway as well, to find some good examples of Santa Barbara stairways that work for what you want it to express. And then as well, another comment was to bring a covering on the windows down to make it more proportional on the third floor openings. And then if we can go to maybe so we can call out a page, but I think it was the view of the corner on Canon Perdino and Chapala. That might be a good view to comment on.
Or I should go to,
Okay, yeah, so from the corner of Canon Perdito and Chapala views page, page 11, yeah, okay. So the number and size of openings and their variety of articulation may be excessive, and so to look at sort of simplifying things and giving a little more wall to window ratio, more on the wall side. Another comment was on, maybe we now need to go to the elevation of Chapala as an example.
There's some wild stuff going on in those skies. It's like the fireworks
just wait till you see it.
That's right. So yeah, okay, great. So then this is on page 18, the Chapala Street elevation. So the series of arches, so actually let's see, what were some of the comments in this? This isn't the best one, actually. Let's go to the arches on this one.
Okay.
Might be a comment, but.
I think also at
oh,
the entry.
Oh, I think you passed it, actually. One more. Yeah, one more. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So yes, so on the page 17, sorry, corner of Canon Perdino and Chapala elevation. So the comment was made that to the right of that, there in the center, one of the center gables there, up where the arch is added, that may be too large of an arch window add, and that's sort of a general comment as well of wanting to make sure that there's enough wall massing, and especially on corners, as shown and as commented on as well, on the upper left, third story corner for that, just to look at, especially the corners, having good massing, extra beefy, and then not getting too wide on your openings, or at least breaking them up
Yeah.
when you go to do them, as a general comment.
I want to get more vertical in general.
Yeah, in general, yeah, because I
More
think that
vertical,
proportion of that
yes.
is also still pushing a
Okay.
little more too
Yeah.
horizontal.
Okay.
And if there can be different divisions.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, actually, I would add one more comment that I was thinking of when was being commented on. Look at alignment with the segmented arches below, that elevation. Look at trying to align something, center lines or something like that, to see if
Right.
you can get that to work as those
Yeah.
openings. I know there's going to be structural things too, but that might be helpful. And aside from that, was there any other comments that want to be added?
I think that's a good start.
It's a
All
good start. Got some work to do.
Yeah, but it's it seems very, these are on the refinement level as opposed to the, not.
Start over.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Go back to
yeah.
the drawing board level. So,
Excellent.
with that, is there anyone who wants to make a motion for those comments?
I don't think there is a motion, it's a one-time concept review.
So I guess, do we need a motion for comments?
I don't think there is a motion.
I think we could just collect those
Comments? Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, so with those, is that clear? Any other questions before?
No, this was really clear, and we appreciate all of your input, and I think we'll be able to incorporate it without too much trouble, and again, with the coaching
Yeah.
of Brian, because he's excellent.
Sounds good. If he was here, he would argue with us a lot more.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you very much for your
All right,
time.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to us.
Yeah. All right.
And Chair Grumbine, if you could just officially adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, okay, so with that, looks like we're going to adjourn before 4 o'clock. All right. Yay, in-person meetings.